So this is another at the Wargaming table session, playtesting the very basic core mechanics for troops in contact. Um, these videos, by the way, are not only are these videos about troops in contact a record of a game in design, they are also videos about game design. Um, and not much more than that. So where I left off before, so what do we have here? And where did I leave off? What was happening before is the BMP here. There's a BMP here. The BMP, the squad, the Soviet squad in the BMP dismounted. So we have the dismounted squad in the same hex as the BMP. So this BMP is out here in the open. We have woods over here with a Soviet team. We have some woods here with the Mujahideen team here. And we have some woods over here with two Mujahideen teams. What happened is the BMP, I think for about 3 action periods in a row, kept dropping a max fire attack onto the Mujahideen team here. And so, well, actually it might have been for 4 periods. For 3 or 4 periods, something like that. Anyways, the result is a mass of 54 casualty factors have been dropped onto this one Mujahideen team here in the woodline. And it's not, well, something wasn't looking right to me. It's not that, okay, so let me go through my thinking here. First I thought, well, this is probably a lesson that, you know, the Mujahideen did not kill the BMP outright with their first RPG attack. They missed. So if you're going to poke the beehive, if you're going to take on a BMP with just RPGs, essentially, then basically you may have to pay the cost. But then I was thinking, while that is true, the mechanics were such that it was too easy for the BMP to keep launching an attack. Right now, vehicles only attack at full rate of fire, and I'm happy with that. I'm not going to change that. Remember, the focus in this game, Troops in Contact, the focus is the infantry combat. There's definitely some simplification when it comes to the vehicles. Okay, so vehicles attack at full force every time. So the mechanics were such that the BMP was a little too easy. So first I said, well, maybe the Mujahideen should take all this firepower. Chances now are that the team's going to be wiped out, or at least or it'll either be wiped out or there might be one survivor. And again, I was thinking, well, maybe that's okay. However, the next step is there was something about the overall flow of play that was coming into factor here. Namely, right, so multiple action periods the BMP is attacking. And that's because the first player, as of right now, the situation indicates who is the attacker. So in this case, the Soviets are the attacker for this situation. So they are the first player every turn. And so what the red 4 player is doing is simply using his first action every turn to drop a fire attack onto the Mujahideen and just keep piling it on, knowing each turn that red 4 goes first. So then I was thinking, oh, do we actually need a random roll at the start of each action period and give a plain 50-50 chance to who goes first? Well, I'm resisting doing that if I don't think it's necessary. It's one extra die roll, and I want to keep unnecessary die rolls to a minimum. But what I was really thinking about is, why am I introducing or changing another mechanic to deal with an apparent problem here? Why don't I try to figure out what the problem is here and address that directly, basically? So I considered a random die roll at the start of each period, but I thought that was not really a sufficient way to address the problem. So then I looked at it again, and as the design approach of this game is designed for cause as a focus, not designed for effect. So I'm not going to come up with rules to create the effect of the BMP not being able to simply pile on one attack after another. Okay, I'm going to look for the cause, what would happen by cause, and then have rules for that. Okay. By the way, I should emphasize that one of the first things I did was make sure I said, oh, wait a minute, if the BMP can keep plopping one attack after another onto the Mujahideen team there, does it even have the combat load to do that? Because if it doesn't have the combat load to do that, that's an easy fix. Interestingly enough, I checked on the combat load of a BMP-1, which is what I should be doing anyways. It was these are things that I'm going to be getting to as I go, right? I've already done the calculations for the combat loads for some of the personnel units, well, basically the individual weapons. Next, I'll get to the cruiser weapons, get to the special weapons, and then I'll do it for the vehicles as well. So I went ahead and did it for the BMP, and it turns out that by my calculations, the BMP can launch something like 32 action periods, well, can basically attack in something like 32 action periods. So it's like some absurdly high number. So the chance of ammo being an issue is not, just doesn't seem to be there. Not on this first calculation. Just doesn't work here. We're talking about like 32 action periods for its coax machine gun, and probably something like 20 periods for its cannon. So not an issue there. Okay, so design for cause. What would actually happen? Now, what's key here is that the BMP is attacking one action period after another. Each action period is 15 seconds. That's where I finally realized, wait a minute. I took out a rule before because of other circumstances, and now I realize that the rule has to come back. I think the design for cause issue here is this, and I'm going to reverse myself too. I am going to reverse myself. So I need to figure out how many, well, I need to get a good guess at how many times he attacked. And I'll just go with a good guess. Okay. It looks like 4. Okay, so it does look like 4. Okay. So let's do this. what's going to happen is the first period, yes, it's a full massive attack, a full force attack. So you do plop the CF marker on there. Now I'm going to jump over to my sequence of play and make sure that I have this in the right place. So when you do an area fire, okay, area unit may conduct not point fire, area fire. Unit may conduct area fire at an area target or point target if capable. Okay. When you go down, there we go. Calculate firepower based on number of fires and rate of fire. Vehicles use flat. Okay. Then we go to make sure this is in the right place. There we go. Capture this while I'm thinking about it. Okay. Okay, calculate firepower. So we look at our table, we figure out the BMP at this range, and round firepower to the nearest CRT column. It is 14, no problem there. When adding exist, okay, we'll be doing that in a minute. But the first attack, now, once we turn that, this is what's different. What's different is, if not already, the area target goes DP plus FC, down posture plus full cover. He's already in down posture, but he goes full cover. This is hugely significant, and I'll show why. And this is what makes it. So in this 15-second action period, the BMP opened up with an attack against the Mujahideen team there, and the team, the target, area target, they were already in down posture. Now they went to full cover. You plop the CF marker on there and you go on. The next time, see, this is what's different. The next time, the next period, what's different now is that when you go to observation, this is what's going to be different. Now you have to because the target has changed his situation. The target is now in full cover. And that's going to make, so let's recalculate. So he's looking up. So these are considered flat terrain because they're lower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he has 15 observation points left. I know I still have to get to sights and optics. But the BMP has 15 observation points left over to see the Mujahideen team up there in the wood line. So the target is not a vehicle. He is marked PM. So the 12 observation point cost for the wood line goes down to 6. But he's in full cover, so it's times 3. So 6 times 3 is 18, which busts his observation point allowance, which means that he doesn't see him. Because he doesn't see him, his next attack, actually all of his follow-on attacks, 3 of them, right, would be unobserved fire. And let me make sure. What's the easiest place? So then when you do the second area attack, it tells you check observation, unobserved area fires at 1/2 firepower round normally. So the next one would not be 14, it would only be 7. And then our rules tell us when adding to existing CF, take new firepower, add to current CF, and round again if necessary. Area firepower is cumulative. So the second time around it would be 14, not 14 plus 14, 14 plus 7. So you take 14 at 721, you round that, which should be 20. So it's 20 the second time around. So that's the second time around. Third time around, you're adding 7 again for 27 round to 30. So 30. And then the fourth time around, you're just adding 7, 37, which is 36. Right? So 36. I don't get 30. Yep, it is 36. Don't have 12, 36. That's 24, 10, and 2, right? 24. That's 34. There we go. Okay, so much different. Yes, it's a lot of firepower, but it's not the overwhelming amount that it was before. There. So I kind of backed up, fixed myself there. So that's what's significant. What's significant is when you attack that target for the first time, they're not going to keep standing there, basically, to put it simply. They're not going to just stand there taking it all. It's going to be, first time you attack the unit, it's going to go to ground, which makes it harder to continue attacking it, which is exactly the dynamic I want. Okay, so that's that. Let me talk about before I proceed. What are these? These, each player has, so I haven't talked much about these friction markers at all. So red 4 player has 1 friction marker, and blue 4 player has 1 friction marker. Okay, what are these friction markers? Okay. How to explain it? Okay, so without reference to the game, without reference to the feel of the gameplay, not the realism or anything, but the feel of the gameplay. Set that all aside. What, considering the real world combat action here that's meant to be simulated, consider what's going on. So within this time period, hundreds of tiny things are happening. And some of those things can have a huge effect. And they're completely unpredictable, and in some cases inexplicable. And it's those tiny little things. Okay, a soldier is supposed to open up an attack and forgets to take the weapon off safe. A soldier throws a grenade and it's a dud. And all these hundreds of thousands of little things, which altogether we call friction. The things that make the simple seem hard. Now, instead of having hundreds and hundreds or dozens and dozens of rolls for this and that, instead of having tables for random events, this is a different mechanic for addressing all those little things that make up friction. The idea here is that we are not concerned with all of the little things happening. We're only concerned with those things that could actually make a difference. And the way the mechanic works is basically your opponent decides where the friction could be worse for you. In other words, you're trying to do something in an action period. Basically, instead of the game deciding where you should check for friction, which could be unwieldy, instead we rely on human judgment. So your opponent decides where the friction could be worse for you. In other words, that one key, like a unit trying to enter close combat, a unit trying to make that that deadly shot, whatever. So the idea is that as you're acting on your turn, your opponent gets to drop a friction marker, basically right before a unit takes an action, or to interrupt a unit's action. And at that time, the unit has to pass a skill test to continue, or it's kind of stopped in its tracks for that action period. And that's basically it. So what it is you have all this action going on, and then at these particular moments, you'll have to check for basically to get through friction, so to speak. The problem is I keep forgetting to use this entirely. Of course, it's maybe because I'm just solitairing my own playtest version here, but I had half a mind recently to just drop this entirely and just leave it to the rolls and the uncertainty built into the core mechanics. Then I decided, well, maybe I'll leave it, but it's certainly on the chopping block for possible removal later if it doesn't add enough. So I mentioned it. Before I remove it, I should probably try to show it actually in action and take a look at it in action. Like I said, I keep forgetting to even use it, so it's not like I've been able to see it in action. Alright, let's pick up. So we just started the second period of the second cycle. Oh yeah, okay, so the BMP, I think, just launched another attack, I think. So then it would be blue fort. This is very, very interesting. This is the decision making I'm talking about. Understand that in a basic / simple / beginner, whatever war game, there would be all this, constant firing. It's too hard to explain, but up here, this is very interesting. The Mujahideen heavy machine gun up here in the wood line is hiding, and it's successfully hiding. The blue player wants to bring its firepower to bear, but to expose itself to bring its firepower to bear is just going to make it take on the firepower of the BMP. Remember that in this game, the BMP is not going to have to choose who he fires against. The BMP will be able to divide his attack between both. As a matter of fact, which I probably should, I should show this mechanic. If the BMP, well, actually the BMP doesn't see this Mujahideen team anymore. The BMP can drop unobserved fire and divide his firepower between these two hexes. There's nothing that says he cannot do that in this game. So he could take I guess it would be the 7 firepower, divide it into 3.5, and drop 4 and 4. Very interesting. Jot down a note. So the Mujahideen machine gun team there is just gonna sit tight. Here's another interesting thing that is to consider. The heavy machine gun team is down, hiding, which means that it also is not able to. Well, I'll tell you, it's only able to see. Even if NDP. I need to make a note of this. Okay, observer and target modifiers still apply. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do this by the numbers. So the machine gun team is up on a higher elevation than the Red 4 team over here in the wood line. So right now, treat lower intervening hexes as flat if observing to higher lower elevation, even if in down posture. So that means we know that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intervening hexes, which are lower than the heavy machine gun team observing from higher to lower. So they're treated as flat, which is still 1 OP cost. Then we have currently moving or marked PM, no. Winded, no. In down posture, yes. So that's times 2 OP cost. And then in full cover, cumulative with DP is times 3. So I think by the numbers, heavy machine gun team is down and in full cover, but higher elevation means that it's 5 times OP cost. So it's 5, 10, 15, 20. I'm okay with that. Only because they're higher elevation. Only because they're higher elevation. So if he just were to come out of full cover, he can now see 10 hexes, basically. Yeah. 250 meters. Okay. So, yeah, the point is that right now, he also cannot see beyond 100 meters. Yeah. Okay. So we'll say blue 4-player passes red 4 player probably should resolve this. Oh, when it was supposed to come off, when the period marker came off. Yeah. So red 4 is going to take an action to resolve that combat there. So it's 8 casualty factors. Now we have to do cover. They are down. I think I was supposed to, since I re-implemented the down plus full cover, I think you're supposed to have a full cover marker on there. And then, okay, so we do need to consider cover. They're in the open or clear, but clear still has 10% cover. In down posture is ×2 cover, and in full cover, this is where there's going to be a problem. Because the attack should be against... how am I going to do that? The attack should be against the posture they were in when it happened. Alright, I can't remember the details, so I'll assume that they were just in down posture but not full cover. So how am I going to do that? Okay, let's see if this works. Let's see if we move that, if not already, area target goes to when adding this. Is it, maybe it's if adding CF to an existing this is bad wording, but if adding CF to an existing CF hex, if not already, area target goes to this. So that would be, it's okay, so that would leave the first time. So let's take this away for now. So if adding CV to this, when adding to this, if adding to this, so this would in effect be the second time it's hit. Does that work? That doesn't work either. How? How to do that? Well, it's important to catch these things. Okay. Okay, so it's okay that the first time the attack is, because the first CF is determined according to all of the circumstances of the initial contact. The initial contact. The problem only comes when you later go to resolve it. The question is what, so really, well, not really, so in another way, this goes to the issue of these cover modifiers, actually. It goes to the cover modifiers. So really, the CF needs to be modified at the time. Oh, well, it's oh, well, actually, if you modify the CF when you're placing it, yes, you have to stop for a computation, but you're taking out the computation of the cover at the time of resolution. Now you're actually just moving it. Ooh, well, let's just experiment. I can't even see how this will or will not be better or not. So, oh, ew. We're going to get a lot of fine calculations here. Might have to just go to which I have no problem with, going to a percentage column. Matter of fact, let's see how that would look. Okay, so let's reverse and say, because I can't remember, let's assume that the unit was in down posture when it took the 8CF. So now let's do the calculation up front. So when blue 4 went to put the CF on the target, let's say you compute 10% cover for clear times 2 for the unit being in down posture for 20%. So that would be, we'll round to 6. So instead of 8, it's 6. Okay. Then, that is the amount of firepower generated at the time of contact. Then you can do the mark DP plus FC if not already. Then later, you're just resolving a 6. You're just resolving, that might actually work. So then you resolve a 6. Ooh, 27. 27, let's say. Oh, it actually makes a difference. Wait, it doesn't make a difference. 6, 20. No, it doesn't make a difference. So he took 2 casualties. Huh. That was kind of, on the one hand, that was kind of easy. On the other hand, I mean, he was in the open, and it was close range. Okay. Let's just play that. So, let's see what the sequence of play has. Okay, so the resolution. There we go. If resolving area fire, check unit. Okay, it wouldn't make a difference. It was. You have to check the unit's reaction to fire test. But if he fails, he's up 1 column. But actually, 6 and 8 column at this roll, they both have C2, 2 casualties. Oh, this is what. Okay, I'm going to check. I'm going to change how cover is done. Mark casualties as appropriate. Okay, so he took 2 casualties. Yeah, I mean, it had to have, that, I don't remember exactly, but it had to have been very close range fire in the open, so maybe that's, and remove CF. And now they are also full cover. Huh, well, that's, yeah. Now the big question I have still is should the stack now be marked +1 p.m.? I still have not decided. It seems like, on the one hand, it seems like it should. On the other hand, if it is an expenditure of it, well, oh, wait a minute. Actually, it doesn't. It could be marked +1 p.m. Marked for a +1 period marker, but it could still not be considered an action point expenditure for reaction fire. Let's try that. Let's try that. Remove CF. So we're saying that the player paid basically in action to find out the resolution of the combat, and after the resolution, that unit is not going to be able to act immediately. That's what I wasn't sure of. I wasn't sure, well, can they react or can they not react? And this again is an experiment. I can't tell without play testing this. I can't see whether this is relevant or not. This basically just says that they're done for this action period. That's all it is, because at the start of the next action period it comes off. So it's not a huge deal, but I have to emphasize here that this is not an AP expenditure, which would draw reaction fire. The other way to go is that they're not marked +1 p.m. and the unit, you have paid an action to determine the resolution of the combat, and the unit can act immediately if you want. I don't know, I'll go this way and see how it works out. Now it would be blue player would pass, red player will pass. No, they're not going to pass. Let's try something here. Let's, I think, wait a minute, I think I didn't even bring the second BMP on the board. I'm going to bring the second BMP, 1, 2. I have not looked at how I want to handle vehicles in rough terrain, including woods. Haven't even begun to look at that. I need to do that. To do that soon. By the way, I was thinking the other day, I was looking at a set of rules for a small unit combat action scale scope game. This game's several decades old, so it's an oldie. And I did not like how they structured the rules between like basic, intermediate, and advanced. The way they did it is that they kind of introduced everything kind of in the basic game, and then when you went to the intermediate game, the intermediate rules kind of changed what they established with the basic rules. I mean, yes, they did add to them, but some of the additions actually changed. Well, it changed some of the basic mechanics, and then when you went to the advanced game, again, the same thing. I didn't like that at all. I did not like that. I would prefer, with this game, which is why I'll probably pull vehicles out again and continue to playtest the infantry, is because the basic game is basically going to be infantry only, but you get all the rules from, you know, everything from grenades to um, uh, um, aimed fire to everything. And then in the intermediate game, it's going to add vehicles and everything about vehicles. And then in the advanced game, it's going to add air and what was the other? Oh, air and artillery, and then whatever other last things. Yeah, I think that's the way I'm going to go. So the basic game will be the full infantry game, which is why I'll probably, after this, pull back and focus on playtesting the infantry game. Okay, so both players would pass now. By the way, this would be like the example, right? So, well, let's play it. So when the red 4 player, I don't know, declares or whatever, starts, I guess when he puts his finger on the BMP that's off the map here, and he wants to bring it on the map, the blue 4 player drops his friction marker onto the red 4 BMP, so it's frozen, and now the BMP crew would have to pass. Remember, this is one of those things that if I can find my, okay, so this is one of the things that that was absolutely essential to me, that vehicles are defined by their crews, not by their armament and everything. So look, I'm just going to, again, I'm going to randomly grab, not randomly, I'm going to quickly grab from a list. What I'm looking at is I have a long list of like 50 different unit profiles to use for playtest. So I'm just going to grab one right here so that I grab a unit profile. I can't even remember what I said before. I cannot remember. I don't remember what I said. I guess I should start writing this stuff down. Alright, red 4 troops, I guess, will be 666s for unit type. Okay, so they have to pass a skill times teamwork test. So that's 6 times 6, 36%. Then I look at his particular, he has a +8 skill modifier, which is good, but a -4 teamwork, which is kind of bad. So you take the net, so that's +4. You add that to his base percentage, so 36 is his base, +4 for his individual modifiers is 40, right? So he would have, well, so he passes. So he rolls a 33, he passes. So the action marker stays there because it's only used, it's only a one-use thing per, no more often than one action period. So the BMP comes on the board. Okay, so it wasn't stopped by friction there. That's how that would be. Well, I guess that could be interesting. I guess it's just not interesting for me in my own solitaire play. So maybe I'll leave the friction marker mechanic in there to add another layer of unpredictability. There still is unpredictability in the game, I think. But okay. All right, now let's go on to the next Now we're in the third action period of the second action cycle. So again, we're in the lime green phase. So all these lime green markers, we have a lot of them, are all going to be removed. A lot of them. Okay. Oh, and we remove friction marker as well. I think I added a third thing. What did I add? Oh yeah, actually I do need to remember that. I added the ceasefire markers. Do I have any there? I guess I already removed them. Okay, I guess I already removed them. Okay. Okay, players alternate beginning with the situation attacker, acting with one unit, resolving one CF, resolving one contact, or passing. Okay. So this again would be, yeah, I do think we have a constant circular problem. Well, maybe it's not a problem. In a game sense, it might be a problem, not necessarily in a simulation sense. Actually, I'm inclined to leave this. Basically, the let's see. The deal is, well, let's just do it. This sounds really, really harsh, but it is what it is. So the BMP is going to drop another attack onto this hex here. Okay, so let's check on our area of fire procedure. Identify target hex or hexes. Here's target hex. He's not going to split his fire. Identify fire, the BMP. Check line of sight. He can see him. Check observation. It's unobserved fire, so it's half firepower. Check field of fire. His field of fire is good. Check ammo status of fire. Oh, here's another thing. The cover is going to be assessed now. Oh, this is where there might be some diminishing returns. Oh, that's interesting. So now the BMP starts with the 14 firepower, halved for unobserved fire to 7. Now it's, where would that go? I guess that would go, calculating the firepower. Calculate firepower based on calculate firepower. I guess it would go here. Adjust area firepower for cover. Okay, so I am going to have to, okay, let's see how this first one goes through, and then I'm going to have to develop a percentage table. Let's do it though. So we know the 14 is halved to 7 for unobserved fire. Then we have, where is it? Then we have, there it is. We have woods, which provides 20% cover times 2 for being in down posture, times 2 again for full cover. That's 80%, right? 20 times 2 is 40 times 2 is 80. 80%. This might be where there's diminishing returns for the BMP to continue. Okay. So really, yeah. Okay, so it drops to a 1 firepower. Wow, that's really, that's a huge difference. Okay. So definitely diminishing returns. Is that, So because of that, let's just do something different. Let's just say, this doesn't make any sense, but let's just say red 4 passes. We'll go to blue 4. Blue 4 is going to resolve this attack. Now I'm curious, how well does he survive a 36 firepower attack? Yeah. So again, we're not adjusting for anything covered now. It's just a 36. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, okay. Okay, 26, he probably passes. Rectifier check. I'm assuming. Oh, quickly. Oh, yeah. So that's 7 casualties. Okay, so he's wiped out. Not. Okay, so it would not be such a wipeout if you compute the cover beforehand. Which, by the way, before the cover would have probably nullified this whole attack. But instead of that, we're just going to make the calculation on the front end, and that's how you get a BMP reduced to a single combat factor because it's unobserved fire and because of all the cover involved. But that's not, so really that big rack up of 36 combat factors should not happen again. Alright, so I need to make some adjustments. So I need to develop a percentage table so that players can quickly calculate percentages of their combat factor, firepower, and there was something else. And there's also, well, now I can. That's probably good. Okay, so he would actually be gone, eliminated. We'll leave it right there. Make some changes and pick up again later.